Alrighty, so today we're taking a look at this. This is the Diatone Taycan C25. It's sort of a frustratingly fun Cinewhoop, and well, let's get into it. What's good, everybody? Ken here. You're watching Original Dobo, and today we take a look at this, the C25. This is the smaller brother to the Diatone Taycan, and it's the bigger brother or the middle child to the Tinawhoop. Anyways, this is a sort of in the middleweight Cinewhoop, and it's pretty interesting. It's packing some pretty cool specifications, and it does come in an analog version and a digital version. This happens to be the analog version. I don't know why they keep doing that. I tell them I fly digital, but they send me analog. Anyways, I digress. So let's get into the specifications. Specs wise, we've got a 25 amp all-in-one ESC. For those of you who don't know what that is, basically the flight controller and the ESC is all on one board. Now there's pros and cons to doing that. It's great for weight reduction, but in something this big, I don't think it's really gonna matter. So I would have liked to see a separate flight controller and ESC. The VTX has a maximum power output of 400 milliwatts, which it's good. I haven't had any problems with it. And the motors are 1404 5000 kV motors. It's sort of an interesting blend on the frame here because you have an ABS plastic along with a carbon fiber frame. The main frame is carbon fiber, and the ducts and everything that the motors mount to is like this hard ABS plastic. There is a foam bumper that goes all the way around it that you can take off if you want. And Diatone did include in the case, which really nice presentation, some replacement ducts, like some multicolor replacement ducts if you have one that happens to break, along with some spare props and literature to get started. Now this version I am running Crossfire on, but it is a plug and play version, which means that you're going to have to bring your own receiver. One does not come with it. However, with that said, they already have it pre-soldered, so all you have to do is literally plug and play a FrSky, or if you're using Crossfire like I am, plug the one end in and then solder it to your receiver of choice. And the cool thing about it is the wires are already labeled, so you'll know exactly what's what. You basically can't screw it up, we'll put it that way. All right, so let's talk about some of the frustrations with this. First frustration was that it was not ready to be wired for a naked GoPro. Yes, I have seen people put a full-size Hero 7 on here. However, I think that's just way too much for this, and you're going to deplete the living shit out of your battery if you do so. So a naked GoPro or an Instago 360 is probably gonna be the way to go. I initially sort of wired into a 5-volt pad on this board, but it wasn't given enough power to the GoPro, so that didn't work. And unfortunately, there is not a VCC pad. The only thing you can do is go directly to the battery, which the pads are super, super small. It was a really fiddly process. I'll throw up some photos so you can sort of see the whole process of me having to solder to the board itself, which was a real pain in the ass. And then the second gripe is the fact that, yes, they did make a little cutout here to where you can get to the USB port. However, in my experience, oh, I'm sorry, it's right here. In my experience, it's really hard to find a USB that's going to fit into there. It's just a really, really tight fit. And again, once again, super fiddly. I guess you could cut away at that foam a little bit more to make it a little bit more accessible, but I would have liked to see that port maybe down on the bottom or just something different. Again, that would have had to change on the board itself, not necessarily where anything they could have really done maybe on this version. So the next version, maybe just better placement for that USB port. But beyond that, I think flight-wise, it did really good. Let's go ahead and throw up some test footage along with some DVRs so you can see how it did. So the tune on this thing is really, really good. I flew for most of this flight all in acro. Actually, all this flight was acro, and I think it did really well. The VTX had very, very minimal breakup. There wasn't really one point where I was really concerned, which was a good thing. Now, I was running this at 400 milliwatts. I wanted to test its output at max power, and I think it did phenomenal. I had very little concerns whatsoever. Again, the tune, it handled well. I actually had better control when flying in acro, which I thought was pretty surprising. Most of the time with a little Cinewhoop, you do better in angle mode, but not with this. I felt like flying in acro, I was just able to have much more control and freedom, and it did really, really well. I was really shocked, actually. I did do some flights with the Instago 360. I didn't get any DVR, unfortunately. Not really a fan of the Instago 360, but that's something for another video. But it did fly and respond a bit better with the Instago 360. As far as battery life goes, you're gonna see anywhere from 2.5 to, I would say, 3 minutes, 50 seconds. It's gonna be sub 4 minutes, to be honest with you. If you're getting 4 minutes of battery life, you're probably running something bigger than an 850 milliamp hour battery. I did start off with these 650 milliamp hour batteries, and I just didn't feel like this was ultimately enough for this quad. So then I went to an 850 milliamp hour battery, again with the X-T30. And this definitely delivered a little bit more flight time. However, if you are using a D-Case GoPro, you got to keep in mind you're going to be drawing from some of the quad's power, so that's something to consider. It's not going to be a tremendous noticeable thing, but it is something that I was getting like just under 4 minutes of flight. Now, I talk about, should you buy this or maybe something else? Well, let's talk about the weight, because this is where this gets really interesting. If I put this on the scale, this weighs, well, we'll wait till it tears. It's about 192 grams. I'll wait till that clears out. So let me put it this way so you guys can see. It's about 193, we'll call it 192 on this. And then if we put a 650 milliamp hour battery on here, you're already over that 240 gram mark, 249 gram mark. We're at 279 right now. And then that actually gets a little bit worse when we throw the 850 milliamp hour battery. We're just under 290 grams. Throw in a naked GoPro or even an Instago 360, you're gonna be over 300 grams. So at that point, is it really worth going with something this small? And the answer to that is yes, absolutely. Because one thing that I do appreciate about this is the fact that it can just hit those really, really narrow gaps. And just the overall design, I found that this, with these little foam bumpers, I was able to bounce back and recover off of impacts a little bit better than other quads. With certain things, like I was flying through that woods, I did not see there was vines. Any other quad, no doubt, I would have went right down to the ground, but I was actually able to bounce off of that, fly backwards, and then regain control. I think with the 95X, I would have been in the ground, no doubt. Any other quad, I probably would have been in the ground 100%, but with this, it was sort of able to recover itself, it bounced off. Also, flying through some of those broken fences, you just do it with ease. You have so much more confidence that you have enough of room to squeeze through there. And the fact that if you really did want to put a Hero 7 on here, you could do that. You would just need to push your battery back a little bit further so you have a little more center of gravity. Take this back plate off and maybe put a strap back here so that way you can keep, the centrifugal forces at bay so it doesn't flip too far forward. But it is doable. I did see it. My buddy Mike from Drone Supremacy did put a full Hero 7 on this and he flew no problem. So yeah, all in all, I think this is a fun little Cinewhoop. I will definitely be using this a little bit more for certain shoots because it's, it's sort of neat looking. I did go ahead and print this naked GoPro mount just to sort of match the overall aesthetic, but I also made one for the Instago 360, and I did make 2 versions of this mount for the Instago 360. So if you do decide to fly with one of these, the portrait style mount I found does a bit better than the landscape style. I noticed that this took on a lot of vibration as to where this really didn't. So something to consider. Maybe if Diatone wanted to include the STL file for this mount, maybe a TPU printed mount would absorb some of that vibration a little bit better than this ABS plastic one, but definitely go with the portrait mount because you're gonna see less vibration. But there you go, that's my review of the Diatone C25. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be back again in a couple of weeks with more reviews of stuff like this. I'll have a link in the description below if you wanna check this out for yourself. I think, price-wise, I think it's, sub 200 bucks for the analog version, and I think just under 300 for the digital version. So if you're flying DJI, definitely go digital. If you're not, then yeah, stay analog. But there you go, that's it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay original.
Error.